There we are.
Here we are. What's up, everybody? A few minutes late, technical difficulties, but that plays right into today's episode because we have Jared Fuller on today as our guest. Jared, welcome to Digital Banter Live, man.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. We'll see how many folks in LinkedIn land and listening downstream from the restream. I'm able to inspire or make incredibly frustrated, upset. Maybe I'm going to be the Socrates today. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Exactly. And throughout the show, if anybody has questions or pet peeves or just wants to don't bash Jared in the comments. Save that for a private conversation. But definitely throw questions in the chat and we'll get to them if we have time.
Come at me. I love questions. I'm known for doing an event like this, a podcast, a show, and engaging in chat while I'm talking. So
all right.
Love that stuff.
All right. So today we are talking about Nearbound. Now let's lead this off in the world of buzzwords. What the hell is Nearbound, man?
Nearbound is just a recognition of how we all operate today. Let me give you a perfect example. How much do I know about health? Well, a little bit, right? But have I been a biohacker? Have I taken all of my blood samples? How much stuff have I actually done around health? Not a ton. So if I want to get more healthy, what am I going to go do? Well, I could go Google stuff like what's the best vitamins or supplements or, whatever. And then I could go to review sites and then check out maybe, the rankings on Amazon. But here's the problem with all that stuff. If I go Google something like, hey, healthy supplement, morning drink, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get 15 SEO driven articles about the history of beverages in the United States of America. And I'm like, why do I need to read 27 pages of content to get your clearly biased viewpoint? I just don't do that anymore. We used to Google things, right? We used to answer questions with how do I do this? How do I do that? When I was a VP of sales, I'd Google how to set up whatever X or Y in a forecasting meeting, etc. Now I know exactly what I'm going to get. I'm going to get 20 articles from vendors that are all biased towards their software, right? Like we just know that. And review sites, guess what all review sites are? Every single review is 4.7 stars. I call it 4.7 star syndrome. And in fact, that's not just my opinion. So I went off on a rant on LinkedIn about 4.7 star syndrome. I'm like, reviews suck. And guess who commented on it?
Clutch.
The CEO of Trust Radius, right? And he reached out and he actually requested a conversation. I was like, whoa, okay. I thought it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting, you to pop in here. And he hopped on a call with me and he said, Jared, I completely agree. And in fact, the data backs that up. And he did a survey of over 2,000 B2B buyers. And by a factor of 10x, what buyers care most about are reviewers most like them. Mm-hmm. Now, or who've accomplished the thing that they've already done. And so I'm going to bring this full circle. What is Nearbound? Nearbound is just a recognition of how we buy, which is with who, right? The likeness to us. And I'll give you my favorite quote of 2023. I'll have to come up with another one for 2024, but there's a paradox that we're all experiencing right now, that trust only comes from helping people reach their promised land. And yet we only trust people who've been to the places we want to go. So if we're in B2B and we haven't done the thing that our customer is trying to do, we got a problem. So how do I get my morning supplement, tying this all back together? Well, I have Athletic Greens, right? Why? It's got 75 whole food sourced nutrients and minerals, and I couldn't tell you a damn one of them, right? All I know is that Tim Ferriss told me to drink it, and I trust Tim Ferriss, right? He's actually done the stuff. He's been to the promised land. I have not. And I bought it based on that. And that's how we all buy today. So what is Nearbound? It's just a recognition of reality. There's people that surround us that we trust, and that's who we go to for making decisions today. It's not the old playbook. That's what Nearbound is. And it can be overlaid to every single part of a B2B business.
So we've had a couple conversations recently around like influencer marketing, right? Because that kind of plays off of taking the trust that was essentially built and created by somebody else. And it's also a space that's like pretty diluted right now, kind of leading to I don't know, like a even less
I would
trust than
challenge you
it's
there.
ever
I would
been.
say there's tons of wannabe influencers. I'm not sure that there's tons of good influencer marketing in B2B. There's tons in B2C. Go ask the Kardashians and their private equity company, like go ask Mr. Beast. Like go ask example after example after example where it's done well. I think people conflate influencers and influencer marketing, but you continue to make your point.
No, it was really a question that the question that I was going down is like, do you think that, within Nearbound, you talk about partnerships, partnering with your customers, partnering with companies who have similar client bases to you. Like a lot of it is partnership driven, and influencers are also like making a big play. And I think in the B2B space, we've gone the partnership route to some extent. I think there's still obviously a lot of ways that could be done better, but the influencer thing is new. And I guess my question to you is, do you think that should be part of that Nearbound ecosystem, or is that like, is that something that's not going to work for B2B?
It absolutely is working, but it's not working carte blanche. It's like saying, any business tactic, it's like, oh, this thing works. Like outbound works, inbound works, SEO works, ad works. All of these things work done correctly. The question is that strategy something that's a saturated channel where you're going to have to be like, a 3-stripe black belt that could, go submit, Royce Gracie, like one of the best jiu-jitsu guys of all time, right? Like if you want to win right now in like SEO, you're going to have to be like really damn good, right? Especially since traffic's declining from SEO. When it comes to influencer marketing, I think here's the thing. It's all about the person, and it's all about, I'd say, the person at the company. What do I mean? I'll give you a personal anecdote. So I've worked with Jill Rowley. She's often credited with kind of popularizing, evangelizing, almost creating social selling. She's got probably 250,000 followers on LinkedIn, one of the biggest followings in B2B SaaS. And I was actually in the trenches with her when she was chief growth officer at Marketo, and I was head of partnerships at Drift. That's a partnership I built from scratch. We went end to end to where the end state was this: Adobe Partner of the Year, right? From zero to Adobe Partner of the Year. I have the receipts with Jill. We have stories to tell, and I make it extremely easy to work with Jill. What do I mean? Because we have that relationship, I'm able to write content and get her started from something like her vantage point. Like we talk all the time. She's done intro pieces for us. She's comes to our events, but is she posting on LinkedIn every single day? No, she's actually having conversations. Conversations are the actual influential thing. It's not just, the brand equity of some advisory or influencer role at XYZ. I'll give you another example. Scott Leese, right? So Scott's VP sales, 3-4x over, humble dude, honest, real, raw. And he's really anti like, look, the B2B sales playbook is really broken right now. He's an advisor to a bunch of companies. A lot of those companies don't get their money's worth. I asked Scott to help. I reach out to him and go, hey, Scott, see, you got a relationship over here. Can you help? Right? Influencer marketing, the way that we kind of think about it, like, hey, can we just get some GPT-esque content that's not in that person's voice and have them post about our product and somehow that's going to work? No, you got to, if trust comes from helping people reach their promised land, then you need to use their voice in the most important ways possible and not dilute that, because otherwise you dilute the trust. It's not going to go very far. So influencer marketing, I actually call it like Nearbound social is the way that I think about it, because you can do it much wider. And those little like we just did the Nearbound Summit, James and Andy, and we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coordinated influencer like comments, posts, and engagements that were the thing that most people probably think about, but it wasn't from the big dogs, right? It wasn't like I had Jill out there like doing this every single day. And it wasn't, I think, through that typical playbook. So I think you need to leverage your entire network to be able to influence people. And that's more programmatic and overlaid against your marketing and your social team and your sales org versus going out and paying, 2 or 3 influencers, 10, 20 grand a month to post, a couple times or, host a podcast once a week, whatever that is.
I was going to say, so One of the things that I saw a post, you commented on somebody's post today, or maybe it was today or in the last couple of days, where there's kind of this common misconception about Nearbound that essentially it's a sales technique to reach out to friends and friends. I mean, honestly, kind of like a Cutco pyramid scheme type thing, right? Where you're going through, you pitch, you sell to your family, and then you ask them for a list of references of people that you can then go sell to. You've obviously made very clear that it's much more than that. If for those who kind of have that mindset right now, but are also like looking for a place to start with a Nearbound strategy that isn't that, what would you tell
It depends
us?
on where you sit, right? So like I'll answer that question by slightly disagreeing with you and bringing it back. How does any business start? Any business?
Yeah, I mean, I think the
Referrals?
answer, yeah, referrals.
Referrals. How do 95% of agencies acquire their customers?
Referrals.
Okay.
Outbound.
What do agencies sell that SaaS companies don't?
People.
No, they sell outcomes. SaaS
Yeah.
companies sell access. That's a very important distinction that we'll come back to in a minute. Meaning, if trust comes from helping people reach their promised land, you've actually delivered an outcome that you said you were going to. Otherwise, that person doesn't pay you anymore. You don't get new customers, right? And I think that is an incredible forcing function. Unfortunately, in a world where you have 12,000 MarTech companies alone, there's a lot of shelfware out there, right? Where there is no outcome. There's no outcome at all. So if you're starting a business, referrals, great. If you're trying to grow a company and you're trying to get, let's say, referrals from what? From what? If you're asking people for referrals because you've helped them, that's called doing a good job. That's being a good business person. If you're asking people for referrals that you've never helped, that's called being an idiot. Right? Like, and let me show you how idiotic you can be with this. Is that if you're a salesperson and you have your list of 100 accounts, and the way that you've traditionally thought of referrals or partnerships or customers or anyone that isn't the 100 accounts that you sell to, right? I only care about the contacts at those 100 accounts. Okay. So how are you going to reach out to them? Maybe they come to you. Maybe you send them a cold outbound. Fantastic. Great. What about the 10 other accounts that you've sold to? Why not start there? Oh, because you didn't help them do jack shit. What you did is you sold them access, right? You don't know the context or the fabric of that business, their business challenges, their business initiatives. The second you got that contract signed, you were out of there. Peace, bye. You know what I've just spent the past 48 hours doing in my house? Building an overlay plan for a 1,500 person company. I personally have been spending probably 20 hours trying to onboard this account. Why? Because whenever I write about this, whenever I do these things, nobody can mess with me. Nobody. Why? Because I do it. It's you have to have integrity. So I think that when most people think about referrals, they're thinking about it as if it's a tactic. You know, this ephemeral thing out there. And that seller is like, well, partner program, where's my referrals? And it's like, where are your referrals? You know, the 10 customers that you've already sold, have you been able to help them connect the dots? Remember Jill Rowley I was talking about? What most people don't realize about her is that her track record is mind-boggling. So at Eloqua, she was the top rep at Eloqua, got acquired by Oracle. When Eloqua hit $100 million in revenue, do you know how much of that $100 million Jill sold? 40 million of 100 million. No one's ever replicated that. I've never heard of that story again. And you know what's crazy? She did all of it by obsessing over her customer. Obsessing, right? Understanding the entire fabric of the marketing organization and bringing about this change. The best salespeople, if you go to Adobe, if you go to Salesforce, SAP, they are actually account executives, meaning they surround the account. They coordinate. It's not them and the sale. It's all the people that surround, Nearbound surround, right? And they help, not just for the first sale, but the second, the third, the fourth. And even if you're not getting more ARR, you're getting the second referral, the third referral, the fourth referral, right? Or a connection into what? How did Jill hit her number? How did she hit the largest percentage of revenue I've ever heard of in all of SaaS history? By getting referrals into the vendors and the partners that her customers worked with. She didn't wait for the partner team. She went and got them. So let me ask anyone that's listening to this right now. You can go do Nearbound if you're an AE or an individual contributor. And we can talk marketing as well. Go ask your customers who they already do business with, right? So like if you have a customer that is successful that you care about, who do they do business with? Who are their vendors? Who are their agencies? Who are their service providers? Those are your partners. If you cannot go get W's on the board with the people that your customers already work with, you don't have a job.
So
like,
I guess
really,
how do you, to like break that down tactically a little bit, because we were talking about referrals to start, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I'll tell you this, us as an agency, you hit the nail on the head. Like we get 90+% of our revenue from referrals. Pretty much every client I've ever worked with has been a referral since I've been here. We don't actually go out and ask for referrals. We actually don't have a strategy to like, I guess, get more referrals. It's just been a natural part of the business. I feel like there's a lot of companies that are in the same boat.
There's a lot of service providers that are in the same boat. I think there's a lot of SaaS companies that probably do the opposite, is that they want them really bad. They measure them. They try to, monetize them. They do some revenue share. They have a partner program around them. And yet there's 2 people in a go-to-market team of like 100 that actually like do anything with it. So it's this weird perverse thing where everyone thinks about it, so to speak, but there's only like 2 partner managers that like proactively think about how to go get them. And it's not the people that are actually closest to the customer, which is very ironic.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing where this breaks down is you have so many silos, and yeah, you're surrounding yourself with the right people and you're actively trying to find the best outcome for the customer. And you do that, but then it gets lost. Then there's this gap of, I don't know, nothingness that shit just flows into, and there's nothing that gets done with it after that. So like, how do you address that then, Jared?
Yeah. So this is where, when I founded Partner Hacker, and in less than a year, we built a successful 7-figure business, and we're acquired by Reveal. We flipped that into nearbound.com. And the reason why Nearbound had to be the thing is because partner, immediately everyone starts thinking about everything, right? Like it's just such a loaded word. And inbound, like outbound, and then inbound, and then nearbound, right? There's this kind of continuity. Is outbound for marketing or for sales? Is inbound for marketing or sales? Or you see how it's cross-departmental. What I said is that partnerships has to stop becoming a department and instead becomes a strategy for every department, right? And the go-to-market motion can change when you have this fundamental thing, which is, you can call it second-party data, but you basically have contacts, you have accounts, and then you have what? These other relationships that you can have a direct one with. And that's something that you should have at the data level. So for example, who is your network of, let's say, integrations or agency partners or service providers? Or if you have none of them, who do your customers trust, right? Where do they live? Go live in market. Go like, where are your customers? Who do they trust? That's where you need to be. And you need to become obsessed with them, that market, and where they are. And then you can build the database and the relationships that surround the customer, right? It's not just a table. It's a graph. It's a network. When people said your network is your net worth, we should have paid attention. We really should have. And that comes at the individual level and the company level. It's absolutely true. So you can start small with your first account, your first 10 or 20, and all that you're doing is you're tracking the relationships, right? The ones that matter the most, where you have the most overlap. And from there, I think you can apply that to each department: marketing, sales, success. And I can give you examples across all of them, across the entire customer lifecycle. It's when you have the second party data, all of a sudden it doesn't just become an account and a name. It becomes, okay, well, there's 5 companies that they use their software of that is an integration partner of mine, right? Presumably there's probably something important there, some intel, right? I call these the 3 eyes of Nearbound. So like intel, influence, and intros. Not just referrals, right? It's intros, not referrals. There's probably some intelligence that lives in those relationships that you can go ask, go talk to them, right? So like, James, what's a piece of software that you've bought recently?
Oh boy, Restream.
Restream. Okay, great.
You could
So
go down
like,
your route with this one. It's exactly how we purchase it, right? I needed a tool, ask somebody I know. First, that's exactly what we did. And that's probably, for the record, with every piece of software I've ever purchased ever.
for the most part, right? Like there is some serendipity here and there, right? Which great, but serendipity is not a go-to-market plan, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just called luck, right? And then there is some marketer somewhere that's like taking credit for that, like, aha, I got them. It was intelligently designed. That's like totally not the case at all, not even a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Nearbound's about surrounding the customer, and it's about building the graph around the people that your customers trust. And this is a little bit of of a marketing kind of angle and a B2B SaaS audience here listening. I think the major challenge, given that I could say that trust is the new data, right? Is that we've overemphasized the ing in marketing. The root of marketing is market. Who are your customers? Where do they live? And where are they trying to go? I mean, I could go ask most people, and they have a very piss poor understanding of who their customer is and where they're trying to go. They have all the answers about their operating model, their funnel, their activities, their stuff, internal. That's why I'm so wildly passionate about what I do, because I'm customer obsessed. I've been customer pilled. It's not about us, it's about the customer. And every single great entrepreneur and great company you have ever bought from, and I mean truly great, what is the first principle in all of them? What does the CEO say time and time and time again? I was watching Satya Nadella today, right, about the OpenAI, whatever the hell's going on there. We won't go down that rabbit hole. But you know how many times in a 30-minute interview he said customer obsessed and customer first? Like again for 10 years. That's all he says, and it's because he means it. It's actually, there's actually something behind it, right? And I think we've lost our way in that regard. Like we just don't have the same empathy for the market. And we think that our ivory tower models is, how we go out and win in the market. It's just not the case anymore.
Well, I think I mean, you have to be customer obsessed, not only from marketing, sales, but also on the product side. Like one of the things that they always talk about when it comes to SaaS products is like the number one reason why they don't renew is because they don't use it, right? And if you are not listening to your customer, getting them the features they want, educating them on how to use it, ensuring they use it, like you're not, like that comes from customer obsession. And like that's the, I don't know, I always think like in a lot of the stuff that we do, the biggest piece that's missing is like the educational component. And thinking
Context.
about what future is like, also like, like you said, bringing in people who've been there and been in situations before. Cause like the other thing, I'll tell you what, we're working on a partnership right now. We're thinking about launching another show with a dev agency. One of the biggest things in B2B is like fear of change, right?
Yeah,
And
everyone, especially right now, which is kind of crazy. It's like the time when everything should be changing and everyone's problem aware, but solution wary.
yeah, because think about what this projects that they would do. Like you're moving from like one e-commerce platform to another, moving from like Magento to Shopify, right? You're talking about businesses that have maybe grown out of a tool that they have, but there's 50 people in the organization who already know how to use it. All the processes are already in there. Like, sure, like there's a better, cheaper solution out there, but why would we do that? Because we're going to make everybody else mad. And if you can bring on partners who have gone through the process, talked about how easy it was, like leveraging those partner relationships, that would make a damn of a difference for sure.
Well, I mean, some curiosity can go a really long way for everybody. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so how many customers have you talked to, or let's say partners have you talked to, about like what they're going through? Where are they going? What are they trying to do? How are they getting there? Do they even have an idea? What, like, truly, what are their challenges? And I don't mean like taking and analyzing discovery calls from Gong and getting some like, synthesized version back up to you to inform, your copywriting. I mean the actual context and the fabric, where if you went out and talked to, let's just say, Matt Query from ROI DNA. So like ABM, guy that I knew really well. And I kind of brought him from demand-based ecosystem to the 6th Sense ecosystem. They became the 6th Sense's biggest partner, right? By talking to Matt about his customers and the outcomes that he delivered, you learn a lot. You learn a lot by talking to you guys. Whenever you actually go out and do something great for an account, you learn a lot about the challenges, the problems, where they were and where they were going. And that's where all the wisdom is. The wisdom is in what Paul Graham refers to as an earned secret, right? And so many marketers haven't earned the right to even put copy down and put it in front of a customer. I was at a CMO show, a CMO event where there's about 250 CMOs in a room, B2B CMOs, and there was big names there. I won't throw anyone under the bus, but like, hey, 6th Sense. So Lotney Kanat, the CMO of 6th Sense, was there. And I don't know how the heck I got in that room because I wasn't a CMO, but they invited me to speak. And it just hit me while I was kind of going on this rant, speaking of, earning the right. And I was like, you know what? I want to do an exercise. Somebody in the audience, tell me who you sell to. Who's your ICP? Who's your persona? And they're like, CIOs. Fantastic. So tell me about the last time that you were a CIO. And she was like, what? It's like, well, you've never been a CIO before. No. So you've never even been a bad CIO? No. Well, then what gives you the right to go and tell a CIO how they're going to be a better CIO? What gives you the right to go hire 3 years out of college graduates, like they're 24, 25 years old, and they're supposed to go tell a 55-year-old veteran with 5 kids, about to retire, how to not make sure that there's this latest blah, 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 blah. As we identified, we only trust people who've been to the places we want to go or who share in that same struggle, right? They're like us, right? They're going through the same thing. Maybe they're like one step ahead of us. Mentors, role models, people that we pay, that we associate with, that we're friends with, that we trust. So no one in your organization has ever done that before. Your sellers haven't, your marketers haven't, you haven't, your product people haven't. In fact, the only person in your organization who's done that is your CIO. Is she doing your marketing? Is she doing your selling? Is she doing your product development? No, this is a very interesting conundrum that we find ourselves in. So what does that mean? That means that you should probably go market with those people who have. That means you should probably sell with those people who have. That means that you should probably serve with those people that have. What a novel freaking concept.
It's so you're hitting on like this like common. It's you've basically taken the common dispute of marketing and sales, right? There's the normal problem that sales has with marketing is that they know more about the customer because they talk to the customer every day. Absolutely right, honestly. But it's like one level further of how, again, the example you gave, like a junior level salesperson reaching out to a senior level executive, like, yeah, nobody's going to trust that person. Nobody.
No, I mean, it's a game that is increasingly harder and more difficult to play. And here's my point. If you want to disagree with me on marketing or sales or any of these functions, do you think that this is a game that has one level, or is this a game that has many levels? It's a game that has many levels. Let's put a B2B SaaS company that starts right now today, like today. They just started today. And let's put them fast forward 2 years. Okay, let's go back now. Let's go back 10 years. A B2B SaaS company that started in 2013. Which company do you think is going to be farther along in 2 years? The one that started in 2013, circa 2015, or the one that started in 2023, circa 2025? The one that started in 2023 is going to be exponentially further ahead in terms of capabilities, software, automate, all of the stuff that we have. And guess who else is? Everyone else, right? The game has levels, right? Not all choices are equal. Strategy is the most misunderstood word in all of startups, and all it means is making a dang choice. Right? That's all that it means. And if you go backwards in time, we used to get lucky because the game was just, hey, I'm selling into this persona and there's a finite set of problems that have a long time horizon. Now, it's like we have more software solutions and help than we ever have. And yet we're busier than we've ever been. Our lives are in so many ways better than 10 years ago. And yet for some reason, stress is higher. Business is harder. Like there's this inverse correlation where like the game is getting harder and yet you're not trying to ascend the levels. You're still playing level 1. So it's not to say that that doesn't work at all. It's just some JV shit out there, junior varsity.
Well, that's the AI. That's the next evolution, right? Everything's AI, right? You mentioned SEO not working as well as it used to, right? HubSpot basically built their whole company off of SEO. I don't want to say
inbound.
They did a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
But you can't do that now. And now if you want, like,
I would say
the amount of content that you have
to
produce. Yeah.
You definitely can't do that alone.
Like one of the things a lot of agencies are talking about right now is SEO, creating content, right? Where like, as an agency, you used to sell for X amount of dollars, a certain amount of content, right?
Mhm.
Now you have to sell 20 times the amount of content for the same dollar amount because, they can just go create an AI and they're going to, the level is that much higher.
Yeah. We live in an infinite game. As evidenced by the last 100 years of human history. Every single piece of technology has always been met with severe skepticism and like, oh, it's going to destroy jobs and supposedly value. But if that were the case, well, then I think we should just have everyone carry stuff across their backs across the country. Let's put everything on horses. Like, no, technology continues to make the game more complex and complicated and kind of everything. If you don't get better with it, you certainly will be left behind. And that's fine. You can go live in the woods. I love log cabins. I love streams. I love simple nature. And you can go do that too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say one, like, listened to somebody push back on that recently, and they said that with new technology to get full adoption, on average, it's been taking 20 years throughout history. So we're in, like, this was the argument of, do you need to adopt stuff that fast? One, I think that if in our industry you do, but if you're in, I don't know, something that's more like a service-based industry, like they're not going to move into AI until 20 years from now. Right. And there is this gap in advantage.
I'm not sure on that one. And I don't know that I would necessarily agree or disagree. I just think that the past is not an accurate indicator of the future, is evidenced by like, the past 100 years, past 200 years, past 500 years, right? Like everything that we're experiencing for the first time ever.
Yeah.
People might be like, oh, everything's cyclical. And it's like, really? Okay, great. Take someone from, I don't know, 1900 and put them in 2023. They'd all think that we're wizards and witches and, like it's just would not compute what we're doing right now.
Isn't what happened during the Industrial Revolution not very similar, but at least there's a correlation here, right? Where you have the proliferation of new technologies. Everybody's enamored with them. They're going to steal jobs, right? They're going to put people out of business. They're going to put them, in homeless shelters, things like that. And it's really, how do these things play together? That's the ultimate outcome here that drives somebody forward. So it plays into that concept of nearbound, of people, but leveraging technology to do so in an effective manner.
So I'll answer that question directly. And this goes for the time that we're in right now. We're, November coming up on Thanksgiving, right? Sure. So we're entering, the middle or end of the annual planning season, right? For next year. Okay, great. So if you're in marketing, what are you doing right now? You are mathing your way into your 2024 goals. Congratulations. You and hundreds of thousands of other people are spending the next 3 months putting together a spreadsheet where you're goal seeking your way through the funnel, through your lens, for your company, for your technology. And guess what the world is doing? The world is changing. The market is changing. The market always wins. Your model does not. The game is changing, therefore you must change. The only constant is change. And that's not to say throw out the table stakes, but that's not to say obsess over them. Like, you can like have an operating model, basic funnel, basic stuff. But if that's all you're focused on and over obsessing on, I promise you're not going to win. Why? Because I can do the same thing and I can hire someone and I don't think about it at all. And I can set up a cadence where I get my reports every week. Like, we're past that. We're past that stage. If you don't think we're past that stage, well, great. more business for the rest of us that know that there is. So I'm not saying throw out outbound and throw out inbound entirely. My point is that things change. And the folks that don't change with it, those are the ones that complain, oh, tech is bad, this innovation's terrible or whatever. That's, the map is not the territory. Your spreadsheet is not the market. I'll give you a great quote. It's by Nobel Prize winning economist Frederick Hayek. And I tend to think this way: first principles, like everything to me is first principles. I'll say the same 10 things 1,000 times versus 1,000 things 10 times. And so few people, they want to go like figure out 100 or 1,000 things. The curious task of economics, which is kind of like, math, unit economics, etc., is to demonstrate to us how little we know about what we imagine we can design. And that's just a fact, right? So your model is actually a rear view mirror, right? It's not forward facing. It's a rear view mirror. It's not a windshield. So you're designing it as if it is a windshield. And then you look back on it and you're like, that's not what happened. And each time we're not freaking humbled by it.
Okay. So then what do you tell the CMO or the C-suite or the board that's saying they want your your quarterly plan, right? Like that is the ask in many businesses. And I agree with you, by the way. The market is constantly changing, and whatever plan you put together today and you execute on tomorrow is already behind. But how do you balance that ask against what reality is and still be successful in your job and the outcome that I have or you have or anybody listening has in their job?
Here's a rock solid takeaway. Everything that I just said is an overlay to what you already do. Yeah. It's not a reinvention. You can do an underlay, which you're building everything from the ground up from scratch is a new business. So when I say overlay, here's what I mean. You have a list of 1,000 accounts that you're going to go market to as an ABM marketer, right? So you're starting at the strategic level. Okay, fantastic. You have a named list of accounts. Congratulations. You're doing marketing from 10 years ago. Let's start there. It's a better place to start than no accounts, right? That's just table stakes. Okay, so where do those accounts live? Who are those people? Like the actual titles, their actual names, right? Where do they live? I don't mean like their house. I mean, where do they spend their time? What do they listen to? What events do they go to? Mm-hmm. Right? Who do they purchase from? Who do they ask questions? What forums? What communities? You need to understand, have that first, the understanding of your market. And then you need to go, okay, where are they at? And then where are they going? You need to have not just a kind of like hypothesis, you better have damn conviction about that answer. And I mean, not just you, the CMO, your team. That becomes the job. If you go live in market and then overlay it against your customer lifecycle, right? The 1,000 accounts and then the campaigns and the activities, and then you go live with them. You talk with them. You do content with them. You do events with them. You're not doing it at them. You're doing it around them together, right? You're a participant in the thing that they're going through. Then all of a sudden, you're playing the game at the next level. That's Nearbound. Okay. So versus you staying behind yourself. Like if your content marketers aren't living in market, doing the things that you were 2 years ago, that's the problem, right? So any single thing in the marketing funnel or campaign or activity, I promise you can do with other people.
So let me just walk that back to you then. So as the CMO will use as the person here, right? They're leading by example, correct?
I would sure hope so.
Well, yeah, I'm leading question to an extent there. I guess my question then comes into with the churn and burn of CMOs that last 2 years at a SaaS company before moving on to a new market. How do you do that effectively if I'm that CMO? Because I have to relearn. Right.
You need to have a ton of influence in that market. See, that's the other problem too, that a lot of folks just don't get. You industry hoppers out there, that's the challenge. You're going from market to market. You have no influence. You have no network. Your network is your net worth, and you keep rewriting it every 1.5 years, right? The CMOs that actually kick ass, that have 4, 5, 10-year runs, they stay in that market. Why? Because they intimately understand that customer, the messaging that moves them, but the people, the influence, right? That, you can go influence an account because you're someone who is influential. How are you going to tell a company that you're going to go out there and influence these buyers if you can't do it yourself? You lack integrity and you're not going to be a great marketer, period, full stop. Like I will go up against any CMO in my industry or space any day of the week. content, copy, marketing strategy, and I'm not even a CMO. Why? Because I'm more freaking customer obsessed than you. I've interviewed more people in my industry than you. I've wrote more content with them than you. Like, that should be your mindset, is that market is yours. Chief Marketing Officer, get rid of the ING, Chief Market Officer, and actually give a damn about where this cohort of people that you want to sell to live, breathe, eat, and then the activities. So that could be, again, ads, events. Think about it this way: partner attach. And you're telling me that across your entire marketing lifecycle of all the activities, name one, name a single one that you can't attach a partner to that? Bullshit. Look at
so
DataBox.
if I'm living in market, right,
Go
as
ahead.
the CMO, now tell me the 2 to 3 things that I need to go and talk to my team about to facilitate that same mechanism and move the needle forward with the Nearbound philosophy.
So come up with I don't know. So let's say there's a campaign for the quarter, right?
Yeah.
And then we can detail out like what that work is.
Hmm.
Who are we marketing with? So let's say it's content, and there's going to be X number of, let's say, proprietary pieces of content published on our own site. And then there's going to be, you know, X number of social media posts around that. And then there's going to be some podcasts and guests. Each of those things that maybe it culminates with an event or whatever.
Hmm.
Are we doing that as a brand? Like just us? Like it's just our brand. We're just going to go out and like throw that into the ether.
That's usually the case.
Or who are we doing this with? Each of those things can have partner attach, right? Every single one of them, or customer attach. Like the point is, it's not just partner, it's the people around those 1,000 accounts, right? So like Nearbound ABM, so to speak, what are the relationships and the people that they trust? And you better be marketing with them. So a blog post, go talk to 3 of them, have all 3 of them be not just like mentioned, but like the authors, not you, your company. No one cares about your brand. You don't have an opinion. You don't have a voice. You are not the customer, right? Acme Co. Security Incorporated means jack shit to Jane Doe, you know, the CMO, like, or the CIO. That brand is not an authority because that brand has never done their job. It's a vendor. It's a slice of their life. And we have to stop marketing as brands, and we have to start marketing as if as if it's a movement, right? Like it's the collection of people that believe the same thing that you do, and then your brand equity somehow mysteriously rises because all the people that have done the thing that care about it, they're talking about you because you're helping them. You're helpful. And I think that's the first thing you do. You go across each individual campaign or activity and you ask the question, who are you doing this with that surrounds these accounts? Customers, right? And you just add that layer. So it's not wildly overly complicated. It's an overlay strategy, and you can track it at any level. Partner attach is very simple. And it's actually extremely simple to measure, Andy and James. It's cake. You don't have to overcomplicate attribution at all. All you have to do is measure partner attach versus not partner attach. Measure that cohort of pipeline, measure that cohort of revenue, and guess what? I can promise you this. You don't go back. Whenever you do, against any activity, do an event by yourself. I dare you. Go do an event by yourself, spend more money than you ever would, and then go do one with partners. Do you think the pipeline from the second one's going to be better than the first one? Abso-freaking-lutely. You know, DataBox, I'll give you a perfect example. Pete Caputa, CEO of DataBox, he got like partner-led startup of the year last year. He had like 3 marketers, 3. And they produced nearly 10,000 pieces of content. How is that even possible? No AI. They just they lived in market. They had all of these agencies contribute, fill out surveys. The market created the content. That's why he had a 200-person business, fully profitable, no venture-backed capital whatsoever, and the #1 partner in HubSpot's app ecosystem. Right? Completely sustainable business. Guess what? Pete also does not have a partnerships department. That's Nearbound. That's Nearbound. Like that's modern marketing. Go look at DataBox. He owns his future. Everyone out there is getting their ass handed to them right now. The proof is actually out there. You know, what we've done at, you know, Nearbound and the Nearbound Summit. Partner Hacker was the fastest growing B2B media SaaS company of all time. Nearbound's the fastest growing category creation in B2B SaaS history. And it's because we do the things that we say that we do. I don't know anything about, like, you could put a CMO up against me in terms of like orchestrating the perfect operating model, orchestrating the perfect campaign, the attribution, all of that perfectly set up. Come do it in my market, I'll kick your ass.
Well, it's
Absolutely,
good
we'll kick
because
your
like
ass up and down all day.
well, if you think about like every, one thing
And you
that
should be thinking the same way as my point. That's not about me. It's not
Yeah.
an ego thing, I promise. It's like I want you to feel the same way about your customers. Be that customer obsessed. It's like,
Well, it's confidence over
we'll have
cockiness
fun
at the end of the
together.
day.
We'll
It's
learn.
confidence over cockiness. That's how it has to come down to. Do I
Yeah,
know my
it's like
customers best?
care.
Can I? Yeah. Well, obviously 3 seasons, right?
Right. Totally. I told you guys I was no gloves today. No gloves today.
this is, I think, what we've wanted from this podcast from the beginning. It was originally supposed to be this banter argument podcast. I mean, we're not arguing really. Honestly, I feel like I'm at a loss of words because I just agree with everything that you're saying. I mean, it's like, I'll tell you, like us as an agency from the beginning, like we're struggling with our positioning right now, right? Every agency out there is like, this is like, oh, we're a demand gen agency, we're a lead gen agency, and here's our framework that we follow, right? And I feel like the problem that I have with that personally is that like every marketer has some stupid framework that works for one business that they've done in the past, and then they try to bring it from company to company to company to company. And the reality is like not demand gen isn't the future, lead gen isn't the past, like all of the arguments that you hear online. It's like you said, you need to evolve with the market. And Nearbound isn't it isn't a playbook. It's I'm going to say like a way of life. I don't want to be corny, but like it's something that's integrated in any strategy you have, no matter what it is. And I think that is a huge difference, because there's a lot of marketers out there that do think that there's a playbook for everything, and there's just not. And this is something that can be tailored to everything.
It's not strategy though, right? So
Yeah.
like it's project management, it's list, it's marketing automation. Like those things are foundational, and I'm not saying throw them out, but if that's where you start and you stop, the map is not the territory. It's another common phrase. So like you have this map, and underneath it is the actual territory, and you're staring at the map and you're not looking at the land around you. Like you can't navigate absent this map. Well, the thing about geography is it doesn't change that much. But the thing about the market, do you think it changes a little bit? Have you lived in the past 3 years? Have you lived in the past week? Like last week, OpenAI was the fastest growing company of all time, the fastest growing company ever by far. And this week, it is the most
70
wealth
employees.
destructive company of all time. Like I don't even like no, literally, like my wife's company, Notably AI, luckily they have a great platform at the data layer, and they have a visualization on top. So they use GPT for some stuff, but they were built before GPT. But even then, it's like, well, are you going to use those endpoints anymore? And like, are you like they had to actually start thinking about their business to be like, oh shoot. And then big enterprise logos were like, hey, can you disable the OpenAI endpoints today? And it was like, whoa. And we're talking like $1 trillion plus companies.
Whoa.
And I was like, okay. So like, again, your strategy last week, you got this map and you're like, hey, we're going to go do this. If you're not paying attention to the market and you just continued with your plan, what worked in the past, good luck.
All right. I was going to give you a chance to give me 3 actual takeaways, but I don't know if I'd want to do that and be on here for another hour. Unless you got them short and succinct. It's your call.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, so here's what I would say. I have Nearbound the book coming out January 15th. So you can check it out, nearbound.com, sign up. Everything's 100% free. It's the largest library of content on the internet as it relates to the topic, thousands of pieces of content. And I break Nearbound the book down in the following ways. Nearbound defined and what a network database looks like. So how to think about this data first, right? I'm not anti-data. I just think that there's a new type of data, which is trust, right? And trust is measured where? Well, in the market. So like that's a vector that you need to start looking at. So start paying attention there. And then you can overlay it to each department: marketing, sales, success. So I'm not saying reinvent everything, but start to measure things like partner attach. Start to talk and document those things in CRM, in marketing automation. Build those associations and those relationships. And I think, participate in market, right? Go live where they are, create content with people. And I think Nearbound Again, Nearbound is just an overlay. It's actually not that complicated. It's first principles, and you overlay it to what you're already doing, and it's absolutely eye-opening how B2B changes. And do you think anyone else is out there really that passionate right now as I am about sales and marketing alignment? I could throw up. Throw me in another sales and marketing alignment conversation. Like, how disgusting is it? I'm so sick of it. Like, no, I'm actually passionate about what I'm doing because I'm helping my customers. That's the funner thing. And then go apply that to your operating model. And you'll find that there's actually a lot of fun still in B2B and business left. Whenever you surround your customers and you care about them, and you make sure that the rest of the team does too.
All right. Well, Jarrett, it was awesome having you on. How can people learn more about Nearbound and follow you and connect with you?
Yeah. So here on LinkedIn. So folks that are obviously tuning in from the feed, but LinkedIn.com/in, whatever, Jared Fuller, JAREDFULLER. Sub to the Nearbound podcast. It's the #1 podcast in kind of the space. I think we're on like episode 150, 60. And then nearbound.com. And then if you want the platform that can orchestrate all this, see, I went through this entire thing. I gave no product plugs whatsoever. Reveal is the network database that you can use to connect all those relationships up and push them into marketing, sales, success. And then for the agency folks out there, I can help you with your positioning, James and Andy, right now. You need to get on that Nearbound train, start offering those services. You're like, hey, how do you go do X, Y, and Z? Well, I think those are productized offerings that no one else has that the market really needs. So there you have it.
Fair points.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, check out everything that Jared just talked about. See you next time.